So this is going to be a really quick tutorial on how to use like a timer to control weapon firing behavior. So basically, let me show you what we have so far. This is my player script. I'm using physics process to get my input, changing my velocity here. I'm using move and slide. And in my input method, I'm looking at the 4 cardinal directions, changing the vectors for my movement. And if you hit the spacebar, which I think is UI accept by default, it calls a shoot method. And in my shoot method, I'm just creating an instance of my bullet node, and I'm adding it to the scene and setting the position appropriately. So let me show you what happens when I play the game. So I can move around, and when I hit the spacebar, I shoot a bullet. But if I hold it down, you'll see I'm just shooting a stream of bullets, and that's not really what we want. We want there to be regular spacing in between. So let me show you how to accomplish that with the latest version of Godot. So the first thing we want is we want to add a timer to our player shift object. So let me right-click on the root and hit Add Child Node, and the node you're looking for is called Timer. Looks like I already have it here. So just add the timer. And I'm going to actually rename this so it just makes a bit more sense for me. I'm going to call this weapon timer. And one thing we need here is we want one shot, because we're basically going to use this timer to measure the delay between shots. So we don't want it to restart, which is what it's going to do by default. If you read the description for one shot, if it's enabled, then the timer will just stop when it hits 0. And that's the behavior we want. We want it to stay at 0 until we shoot again. So I'm going to enable one shot, and we're good. Let's go back to our script for now. Now, because this weapon timer is a direct child of our ship, and that's a script I'm editing right now, we can actually reference it directly. So on ready var, weapon timer. And so what you really need to do is get node and then the node name. And since weapon timer is a direct child of this, you can just type in weapon timer. A shorthand for this is $. So I like using that instead sometimes. All right, so we got our weapon timer. Now all we really need to do now, since it's already set up for us, we need to just check to see if it's stopped. And if it is, we're going to start it. And then we shoot our bullet. So basically, when we call the shoot method, which might happen a bunch of times in a second, it's going to check to see if the timer is stopped first. And if it is stopped, then it's going to go ahead and start it and then shoot the bullet. So we're only shooting the bullet if the timer is currently at 0. That's what this code does. So amazingly, that's it. So let's go ahead and test it out. So remember, the wait time is set to 1 second right now. So let's go ahead and run it. Now I can move around still. But now when I hold the spacebar down, you'll see that it's shooting bullets every second. Now this is just a bit too slow. So let me show you how to change it. So let's try a number like 0.5. So half a second. Play the game again. Hold down space. All right, it's a bit faster. Some numbers I found to work well are 0.1 actually. So let's do that, 1/10 of a second. And you can see it actually looks pretty good. Another thing, maybe 0.05 might be even nicer for us. You're really gonna have to play with this value and figure out what works best for you. There you go. So you have regular spacing, it looks like individual bullets, and this is pretty much what you want. Pretty cool. So that's basically it. Just to recap, we added a timer node as a child of our ship. And then in our script, we reference that node that's already there. And we just check to see if it's stopped in our shoot method. And if it is, we start it and then actually do the rest of our shooting logic. This way, we're shooting at regular intervals, even if we're using isActionPressed. So that's basically all you need to do to make it regular. Now, you might have noticed that when I'm shooting the gun, the bullets are spawning right from the middle of my player ship. And that's probably fine, but there are a lot of optimizations you can do to just make it a lot more efficient. So let me show you a more complicated project just to give you a bit of an idea of how you can take it from here. Okay, all right, so this is very similar. Let me show you the player ship now. So this is a bit more complicated. I actually added a weapon systems node. It's just a simple node 2D, which is the most basic kind of node. And it has two position. So when you go to add child node, you can actually type in position, and there's a position 2D node. All it is it just provides a quick way to specify a position. So I have a left turret and a right turret. So these are basically locations from which the bullets spawn. And I have a fire timer. This is basically what I just described. It's just a timer with a one-shot on and a low wait time. And that's gonna basically be checked by this weapon systems node right here. So as you can see, it's very similar to what I just described. The difference is, though, we have turrets. And when we fire a bullet, it's going to get the current turret, and based on how many bullets you fired and using a modulus. And so, you know what, let me just play it so you can kind of see exactly how this works. So moving around, now let me hold the spacebar down, and if you can see, I'm actually shooting from both. Now if I just start tapping it, you can see it's basically alternating between the two positions. So it's basically a slight, you know, upgrade over what I just showed you in the more simple project, but it's the same principle. But hopefully that explains how you can use timers to make, you know, shooting mechanics a bit more user-friendly. And that's it.